Welcome everybody to Eye of the Serpent Tarot for another pick a card reading. So I'd say welcome to You Incorporated, as the title would say. So what we're looking at today is your personal brand, and in particular how it is perceived by others. Now, what do I mean when I talk about personal brand? It could be a variety of things, and we're going to look at a variety of lenses in aspects of your life. People often think about personal brand as being around your career or vocation, and it could very well be that. But it can equally be how your friends, family, potential lovers, actual lovers, anybody around you, sort of people that you run into, people who see you in some capacity around your career but not directly around that, or in your social media life, all of that kind of thing. Any of those sort of things. It's how you're coming across to others. And what we're going to focus the first part of the reading on is exactly that. What are you coming across as, either, as I say, vocationally or more broadly in your life? How are people seeing you? What are they getting right? What are they getting wrong? What would you be happy with? What would you like to change? Then we're going to focus the second part of the reading on different aspects of your life and how your personal brand is working and how to navigate it towards the most authentic you and the most helpful you for what you're trying to achieve in your life across love, career, spirituality, creativity, whatever it might be. So this is very much to get a sense about how you're actually coming across and what you're actually seeming to embody, and then how to nuance that to get what you would want to be seen. And that doesn't mean to say that there's a huge difference between the two, but we can always do a little bit of fine-tuning when we understand how we come across to others, particularly in this very polarized world where we maybe don't have as much control over that as we would like. So that's what we're doing today. So I'll put down the numbers for the choice. You can, of course, go to more than one reading if you like, if you feel drawn to more than one. There might be sort of aspects of your sort of personal life in one and aspects of your career, vocation, creativity in another. So you do you. But what I did do, there is here we have cards from the Angels Among Us deck. And what I was looking at there, what I asked Spirit, and I shuffled and asked Spirit for each pile, is part of your personal brand as it's coming across to others, and an energy around it. I also have 3 other oracle decks. I don't know what the cards are yet. They were just intuitively shuffled, but that's going to be the beginning of the reading to kind of get a kind of sense of your personal brand and where it's particularly manifesting or being seen or being perceived. Then we're going to use tarot to get into more detail. And then, as I say, we'll get into how to fine tune it as well with some other oracle cards. So for pile number 1, we have Archangel Uriel. This talks about illumination, about inner power, about ideas into form. So there's something here very creative. I feel with the way that this particular archangel is represented here with the sort of colours. There's a lot with the sort of solar plexus chakra and the sacral chakra. So a lot about creativity, but it is also very enlightening. And I feel there's a kind of a very modern, but sort of, it looks, it's not hippie-esque, but it kind of looks a little bit sort of casual, but creative. That's the sort of energy I'm getting of that. So that may be something that draws you in if you feel that kind of represents you. Don't worry about gender or anything. This is not about gender. This is about the energy that these angels or mythical or god or goddess figures might represent as part of your personal brand. For pile number 2, we have Merlin. So alchemy, manifestation, the magician. If you feel there's something sort of mystical and powerful on that level, you may be drawn to that. And then for pile number 3, we have Goddess Gaia. So we have Mother Nature, provider, the elements. So it's very connected to the earth, very connected to material things in a creative and nurturing way. So if you resonate to the concept that part of what you're doing is, say, for the environment, or it's for other people, or you are very focused on your personal relationships and the nurturing, then maybe that will draw you there. But as I say, that may not be, because we will see what else we get with it to get the holistic picture. It may be just that the image draws you, it may be the numbers, whatever works for you. But when you know what reading or readings you would like to go to, the timestamps are in the description box below, and I'll see you there. Welcome pile 1 to your reading. So as I say, these are meant to represent something about your personal brand, something about what you bring and what you're perceived. And that's what we're starting with here. This is what you're perceived as bringing. And I did deliberately have one card seen to draw you in there, because I do think that most of us have at least a part-way understanding of how we're seen, and we know what we're sort of focusing on, and we know what our personality and all those sort of things are. But beyond this, this is how it's coming together and how it's coming across. So it's interesting that I kind of struggled a little bit with what I felt this representation of Archangel Uriel was showing. I sort of felt a bit hippie, a bit sort of casual, but also very focused. When we have, I think you are a little bit of an enigma. I think that you are someone who actually helps other people understand who they are, but you say a little bit cloaked. I feel like with the sunglasses here, there's a kind of a, you don't make you about you, if that makes sense. You make it about what can be created, what can be grounded, and building the confidence of others here with cyan as a colour around you. There is a sense here that you communicate and connect, and you're freeing energy, like there's something free, and that sort of fits with the way, again, that Uriel is being represented here, because we have horse, which is about freedom, which is about movement forward, and the way that this horse is represented in this deck, it's going through portals. So I think you come across as a bit of an enigma, as I say. There is a side of you where people feel there is a mystery behind those sunglasses. There is something angelic or spiritual, like you almost came from another place, and that you do bring illumination. But it's as though people aren't sure who you are because you're very focused on them, and you're very focused on what can be created. So this would be an amazing personal brand for like a coach or a mentor, a teacher, a leader. Though I feel with the leadership, it's a kind of a lead from behind the scenes, an influencer, but not one that is all about you. As I say, if you were, for instance, on social media as an influencer, you would be far more likely to see more of what you were talking about and less of you. You do keep things a little bit hidden, but it's not because you're trying to be sneaky about anything, and people don't feel it that way. It's because you focus on others, and you focus on freeing ideas, getting that different way of being. Again, this is what I think, this representation of Uriel, it's a bit counterculture, I guess. So I think you're a little bit counterculture, but you're grounded, and people do see you as someone who helps them earth things, understand, how to kind of earth and bring things into form, and how to unlock the inner power, and how to be free in expression. So I think your personal brand is a lot, in probably all your relationships, about very other person centered, but people feel there's a kind of a gravitas behind you, a kind of a mystery behind you. So if you are comfortable with that, and you don't want to be too much in the center of attention, but you want to liberate others to be true to who they are, this is a perfect way. You're coming across perfectly as you would want. But if you are trying, in your career or your relationships or anything like that, to also be seen, and to also, like whether it's, as I say, on social media, to be sort of recognized for what your unique thing is and for you as a personality, or in relationships around what you would want or what you would need or anything like that, there could be some challenges there. It can happen with people who are very other person centered, that sometimes at the end of the day it feels like they've been there for everybody, but everybody just comes to expect that. So I think that could be the balance that we're looking at here. And you may think it's a fair enough balance to be free, like to be free and free of sort of judgment. There is a positive to this part one. When people see you as a cipher for their own development, then less likely to be judging you or looking at you. So it gives you a freedom you might otherwise not have. But it is a kind of thing about, is there a nuance here in various types of relationships that could be helpful? So let's see what Tarot has to say. So I'm just going to get a little bit more about how you come across to other people with this personal brand, and then we're going to look about what they get right or what you would want them to see, and then also what they get wrong or what you would want to nuance in how you're viewed. So firstly, just a little bit more about this sort of enigmatic, grounded, other person-centered type of personality, type of brand that you portray, pole one. Six of Cups, Six of Wands, Reverse. There's the hiding your own stuff. Nine of Pentacles, Seven of Cups, Wheel of Fortune. Okay, you are definitely, people think that you can manifest things, people think, or that your guidance will help them, probably more to the point. You're a dream maker. Like in certain circumstances, you could be a kingmaker energy, if you understand what I mean by kingmaker energy. There, whether it's in politics or in workplaces, there are certain people who are almost the sort of it's not a psychopomp because that's between the realms and between life and death, but it's almost a kind of ceremonial sort of thing. It's a hard thing to describe, but it's where they have that all this influence behind the scenes and they can position people. So there's a side of you that's very like that. You are the person who can bring dreams into reality, or the person I think who can guide others to that. And you're very independent. Like your independence, and this is the thing I think for you. I think it might be why you're a bit mysterious. I think that many of you either work in or are around complex relationships, personal life as well. And you have chosen here with the Six of Wands reversed not to be seen or recognized too directly because it gives you more freedom to do what you want. So yeah, it does. It has a kingmaker sort of feeling. In a medieval court, it feels like the person who would do the machinations to, create the royal marriages or something like that. There's just something about you where you have your freedom and your independence, and I think could do very well financially out of this if this is something you do as a career, because you are comfortable with not pushing yourself forward. What I feel for most of you, and this is a nice energy, is that most of you are able to do this because in your formative years you had good support. Now, it is sometimes possible the exact opposite creates this. When you've been like in a narcissistic family or something, you learn to kind of hide who you are and to focus on the others, and it becomes a default. But I feel like this isn't a default for you. I feel like you've understood something about, if you value freedom a great deal and you value your own privacy a great deal, but you want to help others, you've seen something like this, either at school, early learning, or at home. And you worked out really early in the piece that to be truly free, you don't want too much attention on you, but you've understood the system. So this is very much, as I say, you're very powerful, Pile 1, but in this sort of subtle, behind the scenes way. So that's excellent. There is a real sense of power and form. The Archangel Uriel energy here sort of really seems to fit, and a sense of like like what you are actually with these together is when you think about Maslow's hierarchy of needs, it talks about you start with wanting to have sort of security, and then you sort of want to have social sort of connections, and then you want to sort of start to have a kind of a cause, and then eventually you are what is called self-actualized. I think that there is something profoundly self-actualized in you. I think people wouldn't necessarily see it, but this is the true sign of it, because you don't need to show it off. You're not in competition with anyone, really. You're not even in competition with yourself. You don't need that kind of external approval anymore, but you really understand it and how to help others get to that point. So that's very powerful. So let's see what people get right about you, and what you would be happy that they saw you as. Ace of Cups reversed, Four of Pentacles, Queen of Wands reversed, Death. Okay, all right. So this is the mystery. There's a mystery to you. This Scorpio card. There is something very mysterious about you, and you kind of like that. And like you do it well. There's no affectation to this. It's because you're prepared to hide yourself. It's because you're not feeling like you have to push yourself forward. It's because you're really quite confident in yourself. You like the mystery that comes from people not knowing too much about you. And you keep your private life really private, really private. In fact, it may be, and we are going to look at the sort of nuancing around love, this may be the one area where, as I say, you have to think about, do you have to almost have a different brand with the people that you are closest to? Because this dynamic works really, really well with career, with friends, with social networks, all that kind of thing, because it allows you the freedom, it allows you the privacy, it allows you the sort of latitude to do whatever you want, really, and a bit of mystery to draw people in. But that's all you need, because that helps the foundation. You are about building a foundation for people. You like the fact that they think that. As I say, I think if you don't already coach, mentor, or something like that, it's really something to think about, because you have a really strong energy for this and you're the right temperament. The thing around coaching or mentoring is that sometimes if people are not self-actualized when they go in to do it, they start projecting, even within the frameworks, their stuff. You're not going to do that. The last thing you're going to do is project on other people. So the only thing I would say, actually looking at that, I do feel for some of you, and it'll be interesting what we see what people get wrong or what you might want to nuance, is I think that you could also become a bit of a guru to people. And I don't think that's something you're looking for. So there's always a pro and con to these sort of things. I think that degree of mystery and that degree of concentration on others, people could get a bit addicted to you or may see you as a bit of a guru. So, and they may project on you. So there's just things to be aware of. So let's ask, what do people get wrong, or what would you want to nuance in your personal brand? Pile 1. Page of Pentacles reversed. King of Cups reversed. The Devil. Okay. You're interesting. And another Scorpio card, the Queen of Cups. All right. So, first thing that you think people get wrong and you're not really interested in doing is sorting out their emotional stuff. Like, you aren't doing this to heal people. In fact, and you aren't doing it to tell people what to do. You're giving them tools maybe around doing it, but you're not going to tell them. You're going, here's the recipe. Here's how to do it. You're trying to get them to use their own ability. And as I say, this is across all things. You're in a family situation. You're not going to sort of sit down and say to sort of someone, this is what's dysfunctional in what you're doing. This is what you need to do to change it. You are not a healer. You are not here to be a healer. You may have kind of an energy like that, and I think you probably do. That's part of why people get drawn to you, but that's not what you're about. You're kind of like, you did it for yourself and you want other people to be able to do it for yourself. It's like you kind of had an aha moment, and I think quite young, and it was like, okay, you've got it into balance, and you're not wanting to give a recipe. In fact, again, the last thing you would want to be is a guru, and yet I think you might sometimes draw that, particularly since we've got now the Devil, which is around addictions. And I was sort of feeling when looking, it's interesting this comes across, that people might get a bit addicted to you, people might get a little bit obsessed with you, and they may project on you that you're controlling them in some way, particularly if they feel they can't quite emotionally connect to the mystery. So you may sometimes get accused of that. You might get accused of being manipulative or being too mysterious or playing mind games. It's not what you're doing, but people might see that, and it's got to do with that sort of mystery. So it's something to be aware of because the energy is very powerful. Most people, I think, as I say, will just lap up the fact that you're focused on them and not think about you. Let's face it, that's what most people do. But some people who get very connected to this may want to know more, may want to be in your inner circle. Like, I think you have that impact on people. So that's worth being aware of. So let's see how it plays out in different aspects. So I want to have a look firstly around love. So I've got a couple of oracles to have a look at the energy around your personal brand. So this is really to give you a sense about what energy is there at the moment, given this personal brand, how you're coming across to people, and what you might want to think about if there's some challenges here to recalibrate it. So love, I think, is going to be interesting because I do think for you, the people who are closest or want to be closest to you is where this issue could come up. I think, as I say, if you're doing it as a career or whatever, it's probably not going to happen that much, but in the close relationship. So let's just sort of see a couple of oracle decks to look at the energy of your personal brand around your love relationships. And I'm thinking mainly here about like partners in life, but also to some degree family and that kind of thing as well. So we have flirt. Okay, all right. And attitude. All right, okay. So I think this is showing how those who are trying to get closest to you may experience this mystery and this independence. And I think it does, attitude, it really depends how this comes across and whether people sort of misunderstand you or have an issue. Really depends on what their attitude is or what they want. But those who are trying to get closest to you, I think they may find this intense connection because this is part of what you do. You're very intently focusing on them as a kind of flirtation. But if that's not what you're meaning to do, and you're drawing in people, because I think you do, you're drawing fans, basically. There could be a sort of issue where they start to think, if you've got an attitude, what are you doing? Are you a player? Those sort of things. Now, I don't think you are. I'm not saying that. This is all about how your personal brand could be coming across and how it could be interpreted. So I think you need to be very careful in love situations about what is your view about this. You're a very independent person, but that doesn't mean that you wouldn't fall in love and want to be with someone. But don't take it lightly. Don't take lightly how powerful your kind of charisma around this is. Draws in people. So I think it's really important to know that because it's the one point where you could be misinterpreted most distinctly, and where it could become very intense to deal with that. So, and in fact, people may start to sort of say, well, you drew me in, you seduced me in a way or something like that. So I think there is something here about being very, and also because I think you could be very free around that, everything in your life. So you're not necessarily looking in a connection to sort of tie someone up in a conventional way. I don't mean tie someone up in a sort of more sort of recreational way, let's put it that way. I mean like kind of like metaphorically. I don't think you would want freedom, and it's sort of like you need to find someone else who would want freedom as well, I think. So I think there is something to be aware of in that energy for you. Then let's have a look at career. So this is about career and vocation. As I say, you definitely have an ability here that you could make money out of, I think, and be exceptionally good at, because as I say, you're not going to do those kind of unconscious things of projecting on others. So what do we get for that? Strategy. Plan your attack, research, references, visible, key position. Yeah, there is something strategically about you. As I say, the kingmaker, that kind of energy. Strategy is important. There's a lot of strategy going on behind those sunglasses there, I think. Illumination, bringing things to light. But I think you could find yourself in some very key positions in workplaces because of this ability. And you need to be strategic about it, because equally, sometimes you're very, very competitive and political sort of people might misread you. So you need to think about that kind of thing. But I think your capacity to do this and find a strategy is something that you would make money out of. And risk, yeah, you will take risk. And like you put those two things together, it's like it's risk management. It's like, what is the strategic risk here? What would you do? Who do you connect with? Who do you support? And if you are going to do something like this for a career, how do you do it in a strategic way so that you don't end up with kind of acolytes? You find the right sorts of people and the right sorts of environments. It's something to think about, because as I say, this energy is significant, and it needs to be handled in a way that is supportive to you, not something that is taking you in the wrong direction or kind of limiting your freedom or making you misunderstood. So we also want to look, I'm just going to get one card for each, around the creative energy in your personal brand, and then we'll also look at the spiritual energy in your personal brand as well. So creatively, we have cerulean. Oh, that's interesting, because we have cyan as well too. There's something about the combination of the heart chakra and the throat chakra, and particularly here the throat chakra, so your way you communicate and the connection to your heart. But I think it might be also, this is also telling us something about whether people might feel that you're a bit detached from your heart. It's more about what you say and do and the focus on others. I'm just getting that something to say. Here around your creativity, relaxation, sleep, surrender, I think that this is just saying for you go within. You go within, and this sort of portal energy with the horse, your creativity comes from sort of the liminal space. So make sure you get plenty of sleep. Make sure you kind of replenish your batteries. There's a lot of energy you put into other people with this focus, but your own dreams and your own very private sort of aims and so forth, they become creative, and they come out through, the most deep sort of meditative thing for you. Okay, and then spiritually, around your personal brand. Guidance, spirit guides and celestial beings work with you. Trust in the gift of guidance. I think this is connecting back to this, saying spiritually and creatively, you're very tapped in, which makes sense with Uriel and illumination. But I think it's also showing that this is where you could be a guru. I think you could come across as a spiritual guide for people. It's this really tantalizing combination of like confidence without needing to show it off, and like focus on the other person and really helping them with good advice, and being able to ground things and follow their own dreams with the mystery. I think that's the thing for you. You're very interesting people, I have to say. So what I want to do is look at where you've come from to develop this brand and where you're heading with it, and then what is the the way to do that. And we're using astrology. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to use a deck that has houses and planets and a whole bunch of things. And I'm just going to shuffle, and then I'm going to deal out firstly for the first house that comes out. And that house will tell me something about the formation of this personal brand. And then we're going to look for a second house, and that's where you could best direct these energies to maximize what you want from it. And then we're going to deal out till we get a planet, and that will be the energy that you can use. So firstly, dealing out till I get a house for where you come from. Okay, 11th house. That makes a lot of sense. This foundation, I think you were probably like this even at school, in your family or whatever, but you're very, very good with social things. It also shows social media. You may already have established yourself on social media, but as I say, if you have, I think there's a mystery around you. But you understand the social nuances, like you are almost a savant when it comes to that kind of thing. So this understanding of people, and I think that's really important because of the nature of your personal brand, because it's a little bit tricky, as I say, with how people can respond to that. So you're coming from a very, very strong basis around the social world and the social networks. And deal out till we get the second house. The first house. Okay, all right. This is your prime thing, okay? There is something in you. You've been all about the other. You need to now be a bit more about yourself. I actually think it's showing that for some reason, whether it's to really raise your profile, say if you wanted to be a social influencer, or whether it's career-wise or whatever, it's almost like you're at a tipping point where you need to move from being behind the scenes to being more you being your personal brand, and from not being so much the kingmaker, but actually being the king. Like there's a shift, because something in all of this kind of like gets in the way of your core thing, which is to be independent, to be free, and to help others self-actualize. It's more about you. You've got to get that into balance. So I'm going to shuffle, and then we're going to see what planet would help you do that, pile one. Chiron. Healing. Okay. I think, now that's interesting, because you don't want to be a healer, and I don't think your energy is really meant to be healing in that sense, because I think it actually would complicate it more. I think it's understanding the aspect of healing. You healed something in yourself really young, or you came in with that from a past life, meaning that you had this head start because your ego is not as fragile as most other people. So maybe that's the thing. You need to show more of what you were and how you did it, but you're very private, but like you need to work that out, because then you actually do become a healer. It's not just somebody helping people manifest, you actually become a healer, but it's something in your personal story, pile one. Okay, so to finish off, we're just going to draw on the Rose Oracle for an archetype that you could move into portraying to best align what you would really want of your personal brand with how other people see you. The ruler, yeah. You're not to be the kingmaker anymore, you're to be the king. You are very interesting as a group. I'll be fascinated to see, if people comment on this in the comments, because this is, you're ready to step up, but that you're reluctant because you actually understand and can see the strategic environment you're in, the risks around it. All these people who want to be powerful, want to be king, who aren't ready to be that. You probably are, but you understand the sort of like the environment that you're in whatever this is, or to take on your own sovereignty around relationships and so forth as well. But you've got to make it more about you, pile one. Very interesting. I hope that this resonates for you. I hope you enjoyed the reading. If so, please like and subscribe. If you care to share in the comments, I'd love to hear. Otherwise, I hope to see you in future readings. Welcome, pile two, to your reading. So you came to the reading with Merlin, and that may sort of say something, if that was the reason for your choice, about your personal brand. I would think if that's the case, that you would very much be seeing it as sort of spiritual, magical, all of that kind of thing. And there is certainly that energy here. Merlin is bringing that energy, so there's something a bit sort of magical, as I say, sort of hidden ancient knowledge, all of those sort of things, spiritual connection, manifestation, all of that kind of thing. If you kind of align yourself to the magician in the tarot, all of that is part of this, and a lot of it has to do with the water element, with sensing, with sort of empathy, and the kind of numinous liminal space. So there's something very strong about your personal brand that is a little bit magical, very emotionally resonant, very emotionally attuned. You would pick up stuff in a room. You would know what the energy was in a room really well. You would probably have an extraordinarily empathic and insightful understanding of the nuances emotionally in relationships and all aspects of your life. And you would be seen as someone who has a knowledge around that. But the other thing that's interesting is that we also have huge sort of sense of creativity. Actually, that the snake here kind of bridges both of these. So I wonder whether for some of you there's a little bit, not necessarily a confusion, but it's an interesting mix, because the snake energy here, which is about creation, and then we have amber, awaken your creativity. For some of you, this spiritual almost channeling and connection and empathy may most be seen through something creative. So you could be an artist, a writer, a singer, or someone who takes this sort of knowledge and wants to create something with it. You could be a tarot deck creator, something like that. So that could be how it all comes together. But the snake is also represents change and depth, and I feel kind of the mysterious side. Like I feel like there's something almost scorpionic in this area of your brand. And then I think it kind of manifests out in something that feels almost more fire sign. So maybe you are strongly either water or fire or both in your chart. But I think it's an interesting mix. And it will be interesting to see sort of what kind of people get right about you and what you don't think they get right about you, because as a whole, it's like there's a very mysterious and powerful spiritual sort of aspect to this, very, very psychic, but very transformative as well. Like I feel like you don't stay the same for long. You're always creating and recreating yourself. And so people, like there's almost a chameleon energy, actually. If I was to pick a sort of, kind of a music icon, for instance, I would think of a David Bowie. I would think of something like that kind of energy where it's created, manifested, deep, has this sort of occult or hidden knowledge sort of energy, but it transforms all the time. And it's kind of always, it's like you've got a radar emotionally. Like I literally feel like you're kind of down there in the depths emotionally and in the liminal space, and you can kind of almost, I don't know, sing with the dolphins or something. There's that kind of energy. So I feel that people see you as very knowledgeable and very creative, but also a little bit hard to pin down. So that's interesting. So what we're going to do is we're going to use tarot. We're going to get a little bit more of an idea. So we're firstly going to ask just a little bit more about how your personal brand is coming across to others at the moment. And as I said in the introduction, this could be ranging from your career, something you might want to do on social media, all the way through to your most personal relationships. So we're going to look a little bit more just at the high level. Then we're going to ask what people get right about you, or what you like in what they see, and then we're also going to ask what they get wrong or what you don't want them to see. So let's get the high level first, a little bit more to describe your personal brand as others perceive it. Pile 2. Queen of Wands, Page of Swords, King of Swords reversed, Nine of Cups, Knight of Pentacles. Okay. So the interesting thing about this is we've got swords, cups, pentacles, and wands. We've got every single suit. And the other thing that's interesting is we don't have major arcana there. So I think people see you as very individual. They have a very personal, anybody you're connected to, you have a very personal connection to in a way, even if it's in your career. So if you were on social media, you would be likely to very much connect with the people and so forth, rather than who watch what you do, rather than just being a little bit distant. You're very personal. And people see you as very charismatic, very creative, knowing who you are, very quick in what you say, very good communicator. But they're not sure. This is because I think there's this transformative energy. There's a sort of a sense of, are you almost too glib or good with your words? And I don't mean by this is because when we're looking at this, we're looking at how all the people, we're in a very polarized world. So some people see you as very aspirational, very creative, and kind of an ideal, something that they would want to be. And they see you, they see that as an ongoing essence. So it's almost, again, if I use the David Bowie aspect, it's like there would be fans of him, I would imagine, that would think that the chameleon energy was just his sort of focus for how he was communicating and what ideas he had, but that there was something core that was about him that you would always know was him. So I think that there are people who can see the creativity and the sort of fluidity and the transformational energy that you naturally have, and they still see the core of you, and they think they really like that. And there's a kind of a dedication to it. And again, like if you were a David Bowie, you would have fans, people who are very dedicated. There are others who go, is this, like what's happening here? Are we being told the truth? What's behind the curtain? That kind of energy. And I'm not necessarily feeling that is to be too concerned about, but just to know that, because I think there is a core of truth in you that goes through all of it. And that's what most see. But some just see the change and they're not sure, who you really are. So that's just something to be aware of. So let's have a look at what people in general get right, or that you're happy that they see in your personal brand. Six of Cups reversed, Two of Cups reversed, Four of Swords reversed, Knight of Swords. Okay, this is your emotional process. So we have the sensing down here, and then we have this sort of like change energy towards something that's new. This is a process that people see, and they're right about it, or you're happy that they see it. When you have either, let's say creatively, I'll start creatively because I think there is something very creative about you, but you could apply this sort of energy, in personal relationships or whatever. When something has kind of done its time, when it's now something that should be more nostalgia rather than sort of brought forward, it should be sort of the snake skin should be shared, the connection or the emotional sort of food stuffs almost. I think it almost like you kind of have a food stuff from emotional, or your emotional kind of acuity. Then you know that it's time to come out with something new. And you move quickly, and you do it very much with sword energy. So there's something however you manifest this creative energy and the kind of the change, there's something very verbal about it. Like it's how you speak, it's how you communicate, and you're quick, you're very quick. This is the other thing. A transformation for you would be like that. For other people, it takes time. So this is why I think some people go like, well, what was true? If you changed that much that quickly, if you suddenly come out with something new and you've kind of left that behind, what's going on? So that's that energy there. But most people understand this as a process, that you have this really strong emotional acuity, and you know when something has done its time. You're not abandoning it in a bad way. You're just going, it's time to sort of move and find the new and go for the new. And as I say, this could be in career, it could be in creativity, it could be in relationships. You may be sort of someone who is very freedom oriented and doesn't really want to get tied down. I mean, and there's something about that energy and that process you're quite happy for people to see. So it doesn't bother you. If people understand what you're doing, it doesn't bother you. But what might they get wrong, or what would you want to shift in terms of the perception of your personal brand, Pulse? The Chariot reversed, the Empress, the Tower reversed, the Five of Wands. Okay, all right. So this creative process, and as I say, it could be in your career, it could be in just, how you are forming yourself and connecting and being emotionally resonant or whatever. It's almost as though it's not your actual main focus, even if you are a creative person. Like focusing just on the creativity, that's not what you're focusing on. I think you're focusing on the evolution of the soul, the evolution spiritually, the evolution of you. And out of that comes something creative. But it's like, if people thought that you were just, and I don't want to say just creative, because creativity is wonderful, but if people saw that as your main focus, I think you would be thinking that's wrong. And it would be possibly why people misunderstand, because they may think, is it all just an act? Like what's the real you? That's not what you're really focused on, even if it's something you do in a career in the end. They also may think that you're trying to control the timing of change and control, like minor level disputes or whatever. So they might feel that your energy here and in what your power and so forth, and your understanding of things becomes a bit controlling, and that it slows down other people. So I think there's something about you where, as I say, whether it comes out in your career or more generally, you are highly creative. You do recreate yourself, but to you it's a spiritual evolution. But other people may perceive it as a competition, I think, or a control mechanism in a way. And that would be wrong. Like if people understood, and this is why you came to Merlin, if people understood at your core what you're about is who you are spiritually, and so you are going through this process and creating and recreating yourself to become more and more true to who you are, and you want to connect with others and be emotionally resonant, like that's what your core is, then this sort of sense of your capacity to talk it out and sort of like create, it's kind of missing the point, and that you would hate for people to think, and as I say, that you were a bit manipulative or limiting them, because that's not what you're about. You would like to see other people be able to do this as well. So it's interesting. It's an interesting energy. It's why I kind of felt it kind of tilted a lot towards that sort of spiritual scorpionic energy, but it was almost manifesting with that color energy around creativity. So I think it's like the creativity side, whatever that is for you, is the expression of something that's more purely you. And so people's concept that it's somehow changeable is missing the point. So that's very interesting. So what we're going to look at is how this plays out now, and what we're looking at, having sort of got a sense of what your personal brand is from other people's perspectives. We're now looking at elements across love, career, creativity and spirituality that could help you nuance this and make you more clearly understood and seen in the way that you would want. So starting first with love, there's a couple of decks. I'm just going to pull a card from each. Forgiveness, okay, and bond. All right, so this may be picking up this energy here. Again, I think if this is playing out around relationships, it is possible that you are not seeking a very long-term bond, or it may be that you think that relationships, the bond should be the thing rather than the structure of it in some way, and it should accommodate the changes and so forth. But this does look as though either you need to kind of think about and connect back to those closest to you around the bond and around how the change energy might be operating to seek their forgiveness, or you may need to forgive somebody who was not able to understand you fully. There's something here. This is, and it's normally, I guess, the case that where we're talking about misunderstandings around our personal brand and who we are, it's in our closest relationships that most of the real work needs to be done. But there's something here about, see, you are trying to show a process about becoming more and more pure to who you are, and therefore in relationships more and more towards the right relationship. But if you're perceived as someone who is changeable, then either you may need to sort of kind of clarify that, or you may need to forgive others who don't understand. So it's tricky energy on that level. Let's have a look at how it's playing out around career. So we've got a couple of decks. I'm just going to get one card from each. So career or vocation. Dimensions, exploring different worlds, many jobs. Yeah, many jobs, many ways that you do this, many manifestations of what you do. If you're creative, many personas, many themes. You are trying to explore it all. To you, exploring everything actually helps you to still the pure thing that is you. But for other people, that might be confusing. But nevertheless, this is definitely an energy that would work very well around a career where you wanted to explore all the things that could be. And respect. Yeah, I think that you do command respect, and you will command respect. This is much more complex around personal relationships. Most of the time, with most people, as I say, you'd have fans, followers or whatever. There might be a few that go, well, what's real there? But most, there's a real respect for what you can do. And again, as I say, using David Bowie as an example, I think that there was a lot of respect for his capacity to create and recreate himself and explore themes in doing that. Okay, so let's have a look at a card for creative energy and a card for spiritual energy. So your creative brand, the sort of things to think about around how you are being perceived in terms of your creativity. Magenta, different, diverse, unusual. Yeah, This is a strength for you creatively. As I say, it's why I keep thinking of David Bowie. You don't have to like David Bowie for this to apply. This is just, there's something very quirky, different around you, and that is, and it's true to you, and it's because of this capacity to explore. So I think that's working really well for you. By and large, most people really like that. They like, however you, and creativity comes in many forms. You don't have to be a singer or a writer or anything like that, but like the you that you create is very, very compelling. And then spiritually, falling awake. When a situation falls apart, your darkest hour becomes the dawn of your awakening. Like something's happened, I think. It sort of showed up and you were comfortable enough with people seeing it and that you've moved on. Like whether it's around a relationship or whether for you this is the process ultimately, like going to the depths and recreating. So say it's more about spiritual development for you. It might be that the changes for you are become more and more honest and more distilled. And this is all a process of almost being spiritually red-pilled or something. So that could be what's going on there. But people, yeah, it's whether people understand that and see that and understand what you're doing. And it might be something that you can articulate and explain more if you think that there are issues around that. Okay, so what we want to do is show you where you have the foundation of this personal brand, where you're heading to with it or where you could best head to with it, and then also the energy to do it. We're going to do that astrologically. So I have an astrology deck that has houses and planets and a range of other things. What I'm going to do is I'm going to shuffle, and then I'm going to deal out for the first house that comes up, and the first house is the foundation of all of this. Then I'm going to deal out till I get the second house, and that will be the direction. And then I'm going to deal out, I'll shuffle again, and I'll deal out for a planet to see the energy that can help you move from one to the other for your best outcome, for being perceived, you being perceived in the way that you would want to. So, dealing out till I get the first house. The 12th house. Okay, yeah. You're very, I mean, Merlin is right for you. You're not sort of having tickets on yourself spiritually that you came to this. Very, very psychic, very, very private, very, very psychic, very, very transformative, very connected to the liminal spaces. This is your foundation. This is where you come from. So then where are you heading towards with it? The 11th house, more connection with others. Okay, moving from being private to being more social, being more expressive, being more connected to others. And that's, that's probably why Spirit is sort of saying here, just be aware some people don't understand the core of what you're doing, maybe being a bit clearer about that. Most people will get it, but some people may not. And it's probably in the realm of social media, social connections that you're going to be able to move closest to what you want to be seen as. Let's see the energy. I'm just going to shuffle and then we're going to deal out for a planet. The energy that really will help you move from this being very private to sort of something that is more socially understood. The moon, emotions. Yeah, so getting back to that sensing, to the water element, your emotional empathy. That's what you need to switch on to understand this and to get what the nuances are. As I say, most people get you. Most people don't have a problem, but every once in a while people are kind of like, what's real here? So you're coming from very strong sort of psychic, spiritual and emotional depths. That's the thing to communicate with, the emotion of this. It'd be very, very compelling. Anything that you did creatively or in your career or anything like that has an emotional resonance will really, really take you closer and closer to how you want to be seen. Okay, so to finish off, I'm just going to get a card from the Rose Oracle, the Oracle of the Roses, for an archetype that you could manifest if you really, really get your personal brand aligned with how you would want it to be seen. The Lover. Yeah, it's all about how this is impacting your love relationships. It's also why the Moon. There's actually probably, if any of you are alone at the moment, this is probably a very big sign that there's something in your social network that could bring that in. But it's, yeah, using that kind of depth of emotional connection to bring in the really close relationships. And if you are in a relationship now, there's something about that I think would really help. Like your aspect as a lover, as opposed to just a transforming chameleon type energy. This can become very profound for you. and work better, and I think heal the one area where the confusion could be. So I hope that resonates for you, pile 2. I hope you enjoyed it. If so, please like the video and subscribe. If you care to share in the comments, I'd love to hear. Otherwise, I hope to see you in future readings. Welcome, pile 3, to your reading. You came to the reading with the goddess Gaia. Whether that was sort of what brought you here or whether there were other reasons. The first part of this energy, I think, is very much about an earthy, grounded, environmentally and nurturing sort of oriented type of personal brand and type of energy. For some, this could play out very much as being a parent, and a parent first and foremost, and that's a wonderful and very honourable thing if that's the case. For others, it may be that kind of energy of being the nurturer, the protector, the provider, connected to the elements, connected to the earth in some way around your career, or in being the very grounded and kind of mature before your time friend, all of those sorts of things. You definitely exude a kind of nurturing, divine, feminine energy and a very strong connectedness to the earth. And this sort of really shows with these cards. There's also a depth to you, which we're going to get to. But we have beaver as an animal energy for you, which is about work, about getting on with things. You exude a personal brand that is not rhetoric. It is actually walking the talk. It is actually getting on with it, being prepared to put the effort in. So if you had a cause that was environmental, you wouldn't just sort of tweet about it, you would do something about it. And I think it's also a sign that a lot of your personal brand is channeled into your work, into your vocation, into your career in some way. The interesting thing is we've also got brown, which as a colour kind of connects to the earth as well. Like you're very earthy, you're very grounded. People do not see you as flighty. People do not see you as off with the pixies. You have gravitas, and you have, as I say, that kind of almost maternal energy. And you don't have to be a parent for that. But this is also talking about establishing boundaries and the importance of doing that. And you have Scorpio, I transform. So your personal brand is very interesting because on one level it's very grounded, it's very earthy, it's very let's do the work, but boy, it packs a punch. There's an intensity to this. You take no prisoners, quite frankly. I think of all the readings that I've done, this is the personal brand that is most likely to take a cause, most likely to do it socially or politically in some way. And that will permeate other aspects of your life. But you are seen as someone who is really knows their stuff, does the hard yards, and do not cross you. Do not cross you. And you have probably had to, because of the intensity of your energy, establish boundaries. Because I think that some people might be very drawn to you and want you to answer everything and to be their second parent. And other people might want to challenge you because your essence is very, very strong. And as I say, very, very aligned. But some people, in whatever you're doing, I feel are not that aligned. They are more exploitative. You are dealing with people and issues that are complex on that level. And I feel like you draw in a kind of competitive thing from people. So your intensity, as I say, I mean, more for them really. But having said that, you maybe have to have some boundaries around it because either people want too much, they want you to become their second parent and do all the work, or they want to compete with you in some way. Like you're the real deal, but there's a lot of pretenders to that particular throne, pile 3. So I think this is the energy we're seeing. So what I want to do firstly with tarot is to get a bit more about what is this actual, how are you really perceived in terms of your personal brand. And we're going to look at what people get right or you're comfortable with, and then also what they get wrong and you would want a nuance or change. So let's see a little bit more about this really earthy but intense, like you are strong as. And that is part of your brand. That is part of your brand. So let's see what else we can find out about it. The Lovers, Ace of Swords reversed, Judgment reversed. Oh, that's interesting. Ooh, the blank card. Boy, you guys are powerful. We'll get to what that means. The Three of Swords. Okay, all right. So there's a few things I'm getting from this. Firstly, for some of you, you may have problems with relationships because this particular competition may play out in relationships. You may often find trying to find an equal in a relationship is difficult because you're so strong. So strong. or there could be competing people for the person that you love. There's some sort of competition energy, and I think it's playing out there. So it'll be interesting to see, because we are going to look at how your personal brand is being impacted by personal relationships and so forth a little bit later. So that's the first thing I get, that there could be a competition, and you could sometimes find yourself separated or alone because of that kind of energy. Because as I say, you're such a strong energy. People, it's interesting. People see you as having a destiny. People see you as having a calling, but at the moment they don't think you're fully doing it yet. So with judgment reversed, it's sort of like people can sense that there are great things, like the potential for you, great things, but it's not quite there. You haven't quite stepped into it. The idea is there, but you haven't committed to it. Some may even see relationship issues as the thing that gets in your way, that like the kind of the impact of your internal power, you might actually suppress some of this, but boy, something's coming. Like with the blank card, people know, people look at you and they know that you are something, and something is coming. Now, as I said, it could be at any level of your life and anything you want to do, but with the blank card, there is like a spiritual, karmic, the universe sort of like doing its grand design type of energy that is going to come up. It hasn't come up yet. And you wouldn't even really know what it was. Like what I think about you here is that your personal brand, as I say, is very, very powerful, very, very intense. And it creates both a sense of loyalty and potentially people wanting to have your sort of support and your nurturing all the time, and people who compete. So it's a very, very powerful brand. And people sense destiny around you. You may even find, I'm getting for some of you, you may find that relationships is where all this plays out and holds this back. So I think that for you in particular, it will be interesting to see what happens when we're looking at what isn't working, but also around love, because you could attract a very competitive person to you. That's the other way this could play out, that separates you from your destiny. So it's interesting because of the importance of this, and the people have a sense of it. Some people try and suppress that. Now, this is not going to be everybody. Most people are just seeing it and thinking, wow, like this person's going to be something. I'm going to one day say I knew this person back when type of thing. But you do need to be careful. You do need to be careful about who you let close to you. So, wow, okay. So let's have a look at what, people get right about you, or what you're happy that they see in you, like what's working for you and the way your personal brand is operating. King of Cups reversed, Six of Wands reversed, Ace of Cups reversed, Six of Pentacles reversed. Okay, all right. So you don't mind that people have a sense you haven't fully been recognised, seen, or moved into your thing yet. That wouldn't bother you. In fact, the fact that there's certain sort of things yet to come, you're okay about. You're okay about it. You would also be okay, I think, because you recognise the risk around love, that you would be okay with people thinking that you put love aside for a cause at the moment. Your own personal recognition and love aside, you're not that worried about that. And people feel that you are wanting to work with them as an equal. And you're okay with that. The irony being, it would be hard to get a lot of equals around you, but we'll see what we see when we look at the challenges. But people don't see you. They don't see you as an egotist. You're not an egotist. This is the issue. You're not. But you're very, very strong. So, and I think you'd be happy that by and large people don't see much about your private life as well too. People see you as this isn't about you, it's about a cause. You're happy with that. They also see you as someone who wants to heal or nourish or provide as well, and you're quite happy with that as well too. So I think that in whatever way this is, whether it plays out socially, politically, or whether it's just your general dynamics with people, you're happy that people think that you want to work with them collaboratively, that you want to have a healing energy, and that you're not interested in being centre stage. Let's see what people get wrong, or what you would want to change or nuance around your personal brand. Pile 3. The Moon, the Four of Cups, the Three of Wands reversed, the Emperor reversed. Okay, there's definitely something for you which is about the emotional issue around power and around relationship and around connection. This isn't about your gender or what you identify with, but there's sort of there's a very divine feminine aspect around this. And then there's an issue here around almost dealing with a distorted divine masculine. So I do think there's a sense here where what you're not about is bossing everybody around, and you're not about telling everybody what to do and where to go. But it's because it's almost as though you come up against other people who that is what they are about, and therefore you almost end up in a debate with them, and it's like you could be perceived as doing the same thing. So, and I think people, if that occurs, may think that you're trying to deal with your own emotional issues rather than something that is more of a cause. People don't understand the true sort of spiritual and emotional background to this because you're so earthy and so, that Scorpio energy is so intense, but it's channeled through very earthy energy and so forth. So people don't really see that you're a bit of a mystery, and people, if they think that you're in some sort of a power struggle, they'll start to project on you what the other person coming to that is, and they'll feel like, yeah, there's something emotionally here, and particularly if it plays out around relationships in some way. So this is the dynamic of someone who has a lot of natural power. You do. And you come from a good place with it. But boy, it attracts some interesting energy and some competitive energy. So let's see how it plays out in various aspects. So I think particularly around love, I think this could have a real impact around your love relationships and making sure. And so this is around things to think about to draw the right love to you, so you don't draw this sort of distorted competitive stuff. So we're just using a couple of decks to look at energy around love. So firstly, family reversed. Okay, all right. And then we'll use another deck before I talk about this. Memories. All right, yeah. So there's a lot about what your upbringing was. I would say you were very strong and mature and almost like a parent within the family even when you were a child. Whether you literally had to do that because it was a broken family or whether it was just natural to you. So that there's something around the energy that happened there that you could learn from and deal with, like patterns that you could let go of. So that's the most positive reading of it. I would also say, however, when you've got that kind of sense of parenthood and you've got these sort of issues about power struggles, the thing to think about is how to make sure you don't end up in a situation where that could affect, custody of children or something like that. And it may well be that you saw this play out in your family or in others that you were close to, but there's just something here about, if it's not literal children, it's about making sure that you keep connected to what is core to your creative and nurturing energy, and not let the memories of the difficult things get in the way. So there's definitely something here about, you've seen this pattern, you've seen it right from childhood, I'd say, and you're really strong, as I say, but you've got to think about how to protect yourself emotionally. I think it's really about protecting yourself emotionally. Let's see how this is playing out around career. That's always going to be the most sensitive point, but I just feel like for some of you who I think your career and so forth could be about really being on the world stage in some way. It's like I think if somebody's trying to compete with you, it's around emotional things that they might try and do it. So it's just being very careful there. So around career, what energy do we get? Protection. Okay, yeah, you need protection. I think you're protective, but I think you need to protect yourself, because I think it's just that you draw this sort of competition. It's also saying, save your money, make sure that you protect all that you need materially. But I think you would do that. You do the work, but don't give away too much. Have some boundaries. For some of you, people may draw on your emotional caring and nurturing to take, to try and, get you to sort of pay for them or whatever. So be aware of that. Protect what is material to you. But I think there is a need for protection, because I think your energy draws this competition, as I say. And we also have denial. Yeah, don't deny that this is going on. Like there's a couple of things here. There's one is that you could deny it's going on. You could be going, no, I'm, because you like the idea of it's not about you, it's not about ego, it's being with equals. But you really do have this strength, and you need to understand the attention that draws to you. So don't deny that. You need to think about what you have to protect. The other thing is to understand that that's the other mechanism where if people were competing with you to try and stop you reaching your destiny, or because they were threatened by your personal brand, they may try and deny you, deny your ability, deny your ideas, all of that kind of thing. Now, remember, you are stronger than them. This is why this is happening. The only reason that this is coming up is so that you protect yourself and you understand the dynamics that are operating. This is why the establishing boundaries was so important. Okay, let's get a card for creativity and a card for spirituality as well. So around your personal brand for creativity, what will sort of serve you best? Oh, brown again. Wow. And this is talking about earth. I'm finding, earth. I was finding it hard to read it. Earth, foundation, seeds. Yeah, sort of growth, thinking about growth. What do you want to grow? Your creativity should be focused on that. And on the fact that you can ground things, that you have that energy, not to let some of this other stuff get in the way. And then spirituality. Wise speak. Your words are your vibration. Authentic communication opens the voice of clarity and wisdom. So your words have power. Remember that. Your spiritual connection has power. Power comes for you. You're channeling that. Like don't let this sort of competitive energy stop you. It's interesting too. I was looking as I was doing that with the brown, where we have like what appears to be like a kind of a cage. The cage door is open. Do not let people cage you in. Do not let them deny what you have. You do have a destiny, pile 3. You do. So to help you a little bit with this, I want to use some astrology, and what I'm doing is I've got a deck that's got a whole range of things, houses, planets, etc. What I'm going to do is I'm going to shuffle, and then I'm going to deal out till I get the first house that comes up, and that will be showing me the foundation of your personal brand and the energy you're bringing in. Then I'm going to deal out till I get a second house to show where that could be best directed, and then I'm going to shuffle the deck again, and I'm going to look for a planet to show the energy that would help you with that. So firstly, I'm just dealing out until I get the first of the house cards that come up. 11th house. Okay, so there's a lot in your personal brand and your connection, your power that's come from understanding people and being socially connected, socially aware, socially connected, social media too. Your voice out on social media around the causes that you care about could be very, very prominent or very, very powerful. But I think you've kind of seen this in like your sort of social networks and so forth. You've always been this powerful person, and you've probably seen, if you think again around family, there could have been disputes in your family if you were stronger than your family members, or kind of like growing up energy. You know it, you know who you are by virtue of what's happened to you socially. So where this is heading towards for your best exemplification of your true self is interesting. It's the 12th house. This is getting back to your spiritual stuff, but it's also finding where the boundaries are in privacy. It's important for you to have things that are private to you that are not seen. That's the boundaries, because you go deep with Scorpio. So it's not to say that you won't be seen on the world stage, but it is saying that the best way to build on this foundation is to know what to keep private. That's why we got boundaries all the time. So let's see the planetary energy that can help you with that. The moon. Your psychic ability, your emotional ability. I think it's also saying the main thing that you need to keep private is your love life. Although, your family, the things that are very close to you. It's like the rest probably out in the social world is fine, but this is the thing you need to keep very private, and that kind of intensity of the energy, like that, understanding that is the thing that will help you have the boundaries and protect yourself. Pile 3. So what we want to finish with is a card from the Oracle of the Roses for an archetype that you could best exemplify if you're really moving towards your personal brand, aligning it in the way it's perceived, aligning with who you truly think you are and you want to be seen as being. The artist. Okay. So whether that is literally that you want to have a creative career and that's how you could best get your message across but keep things private for yourself, and that is a very good way of doing it if you feel that you have particular artistic ability. Otherwise, I think this is about making your sort of work, your vocation and your cause an art form. So that is something that transfigures you. It's because the issue for you is because you're so powerful that you personally become the target when people are trying to compete. But if you make it more about the art rather than about you, this might also be the thing about the art of emotionally clouding some of who you are, like hiding it a bit, making it more about the message and less about you. Because your actual personal brand is significant and powerful, but you need to protect yourself, and it may be through the art of how you communicate and the art of what you show and what you conceal that you can actually get this balance right. So I hope that resonates for you, Pile 3. I hope you enjoyed the reading. If so, please like the video and subscribe. If you care to share in the comments, I'd love to hear. Otherwise, I hope to see you in future readings.